Hi there and welcome to the Fed Talks. Our latest video is brought to you by JTI UK, and today we're looking at the growing threat of illicit tobacco within convenience retail, the negative impact that it has on communities across the country, and how retailers can report any sales in their area. Today we're joined by Emma Griffin, who's the Anti-Illicit Trade Operations Manager at JTI UK, and her colleague Ian Howell, who's the Public Affairs Manager. So let's get into the conversation. So Ian, first of all, how big of a problem is illicit tobacco at the minute?
Well, it's a big problem and it's growing. I think that's for certain. So Revenue and Customs say that sort of a 10% and 30% of hand rolling tobacco is from non-domestic sources, losing them revenue of around 2.6 billion at their last estimates. We think the size of the problem is much bigger than that. We suggest at the moment we're looking at about half of hand rolling tobacco is non-domestic and about a third of cigarettes. So a higher level than HMRC estimates show.
Clearly a big problem. Emma, do you think these figures are increasing as well as becoming more of a problem?
Yeah, for sure. Illicit tobacco is definitely on the increase. Our own research has identified the consumption of illicit tobacco on the rise. We conduct numerous test purchases, and where previously, maybe 18 months ago, we were getting 1 in 3 stores providing a positive test purchase, we're now looking at about 2 in 3. No doubt encouraged by the two duty increases last year. So we now know that about 90% of a pack of cigarettes is actually tax. Those duty increases last year affected the price of a 30-gram packet of rolling tobacco by almost £4. So it went from around £18.55, then up to £20.30, and then the final increase then took that to £22.50. We know that counterfeit versions of those products offering a 50-gram alternative are widely available across the UK, from as little as £3. The average is £5, but we do know that they are available for as little as £3. And in the past few months, we're aware of 2 sites that have been uncovered in the UK manufacturing counterfeit rolling tobacco. One was in Bury, and then one was up in Gateshead. Obviously, on top of all this, you've got the duty rises, but you've also got the cost of living crisis as well. So consumers are naturally looking for cheaper alternatives, which can only lead them down the road of illicit tobacco. We were talking to retailers in Wolverhampton a few weeks ago about the illicit trade, and their opinion and their feelings are that criminals are getting more brazen because the existing penalties they feel just aren't tough enough. And they highlighted to us as well that the illicit trade is spilling out beyond convenience retail. They know of sandwich shops, hairdressers, pizza delivery stores that are also involved in the illicit trade, selling packs of 20 packs of 20 cigarettes for as little as £4.
Wow, crazy numbers. So, Ian, obviously, it's a big problem that's getting bigger, isn't it? The proposed generational ban from the government, is that just going to make the matter even more worse?
Undoubtedly. I mean, you're handing more and more of the market over to the criminals that are behind this illegal trade. So the idea of a generational ban really has no positive benefits in this regard. So, we would urge the government to think very carefully about taking these measures forward.
Got you. And Emma, obviously, illicit tobacco, what's the impact of that for retailers and actual communities?
So your independent retailers, they are impacted massively by the illicit tobacco trade. We speak to retailers all the time who document that their tobacco sales are dropping. Not only are they losing tobacco sales, when somebody goes into a store to purchase tobacco, they also pick up other items whilst they're in the store. So if somebody's going to a shop to purchase illicit tobacco, they're losing that cigarette sale, but they're also losing the other basket spend as well. So it's not just the cigarette sales that are being affected; their whole catalogue of products within their store is going down. Obviously, for communities, as we mentioned earlier, people are looking for cheaper alternatives. But the fact of the matter is, counterfeit illegal cigarettes, they contain all sorts of ingredients that shouldn't be in there. It's been documented previously, ingredients such as rat droppings, dirt, lead, and other toxins that just shouldn't be in there.
That's awful. So, what on the back of that, Mayor, if a retailer gets caught from that, what's the punishment? What happens to the retailer?
Well, there's a range of punishments out there. I mean, it can range from a simple caution all the way through to imprisonment. one of the most common penalties that we're seeing at the moment are a lot of councils are using closure orders, where they will go for a 3-month closure order that shuts the business down and any associated property there, and meaning it's an offence for the shopkeeper or the workers to go back in. Other commonly used sanctions are the removal of the premises licence, so getting rid of the ability to sell alcohol. One thing that has come on stream recently, which could be quite useful, is the ability to impose an on-the-spot fine of up to £10,000. This is something that's come through the tobacco track and trace regime. At the moment, these powers can only be used directly by HMRC, but they have provided a gateway for trading standards to refer cases to them. And through that, HMRC, looking at the evidence provided by trading standards, could impose a fine of up to £10,000 against any retailer selling illegal tobacco. We think that's a very positive step, but we would like trading standards to be able to impose those fines directly themselves at the point of enforcement, rather than having to refer a case. I mean, there are cases as well, just to say that some retailers have faced prison sentences for some of the really big offences, where there have been multiple seizures and multiple prosecutions. So there's a wide range of sanctions out there, and all we call for really is just more and more enforcement.
Got you, Ian. Emma, what are JTI doing themselves as well to tackle this illicit activity?
Tackling illicit trade is one of the top priorities for the business at the moment. Every year, we undertake a number of undercover test purchasing operations across the UK to crack down on the illicit sales of tobacco and also vapes. We report all of those findings to trading standards and HMRC, and we also take our own actions. So in stores where they have a JTI cigarette unit and they're found to be involved in the sale of illicit tobacco, we will actually look to remove those gantries. So far this year, we've taken 4, and that brings our total to 50. And whilst it is ultimately the responsibility of government to take the lead, we do believe that it's a fight that can only be won when everybody, all parties, public and private, work together in partnership.
Got you. And just to close off, this video will be viewed by retailers up and down the country. If retailers suspect anyone is selling illicit tobacco, what should that retailer do?
So there are a couple of options for retailers. So if they know a store is selling illicit tobacco or vapes, then they should report them to their local trading standards. And they can also contact citizens advice on 0808 223 1133. And I would also encourage them to make their JTI business advisor aware as well, who can also make a complaint on their behalf.
Thank you so much for joining us today, Ian and Emma. It's clear that there's plenty of work still to do when it comes to tackling illicit tobacco, but I'm sure retailers will be reassured that it's a top priority for JTI. Thanks for watching.